Welcome to Parents Make a Difference. I'm your host, Josie PV. Do you have a child who might not be doing well in school? Are you worried? You are going to want to hear Cathie Aguanno's story. How did a person who didn't do well in school, didn't have the support of her parents, achieve anyways, and found her voice and passion to excel? Let's learn from Cathie's story. It is a story of overcoming and her journey to living a life she loves. I would like to welcome a friend and colleague of mine, Cathie Aguanno.
Thank you so much. I feel honored.
So if you can just share with us some of the things you shared with me about your life story, feel free.
My life story. I love my life story just because it has been so imperfect. I can sit back and reflect on the journey as it unfolded, and while I was in it, I had a slew of questions, wondering what was happening and where I was going and why this was happening. But in retrospect, I think it's been a gloriously wonderful story, because even with all of its pain, its trials and triumphs, it has brought me here to where I am today, present. Its journey has brought out who I am to be, that I've come to know over the years, and it has given me a lot of excitement for what I want, where I want to be moving forward. So who am I suppose is the question. I come from a immigrant Sicilian family. My parents came here quite young and met here and really incubated in that immigrant idea of incubating and reserving their traditions from Italy, southern Italy, to here, and where they didn't really transition into the community, into the lifestyle at the time of the Torontonian lifestyle. And so a lot of the ideas, a lot of the parenting ideas really were from a very old southern perspective. So I was very sheltered growing up. The idea of me going to school was not something that was nurtured. I was raised to be married, to have children, and that's about it. That in itself is remarkable, but there was nothing beyond that. So in school, I was not a very academically inclined young girl. I was in a lot of the lower groups. At the time, we didn't have the system that we have in place now, but I was in either the black group for reading, for mathematics, or I was in the red group. Both had negative connotations as the lowest grade in the class. There were no testing, there were no identification, there was just me in this negative space as a child that didn't know how to read or how to write or how to do math. Moving through high school, the same idea. I think my high school average was about 60%. The only thing I excelled in was French and Italian and English. Everything else was a struggle. I think I failed all grade 9, 10, and 11 math, and I had to redo them. So coming out, I went to a trade school for 1 year at 18 years old, to where my aspirations, because I loved Italian and French and English, my aspirations were to be a trilingual secretary. And to be married somewhere around 21, 22 perhaps, and to have children somewhere around 22, 23. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She left school in grade 11 to support the immigrant family, my grandparents that worked so hard, and that was that. That was my model. Things changed throughout the years. Around 21, 22, I was very, very restless. Not being allowed to date, not being allowed to go out, not being allowed to have any group activities. I just became very restless in my, at the time, career. And I decided to just take a course at York, at U of T. It was a poetry course. And my family didn't know about it because I wasn't allowed to go anywhere. So from there, one course led to another, and the next thing you know, I was in university, and I was studying French and Italian in university. Somewhere like a vault exploding, education and books and writing became not only a passion but a lifestyle for me. I decided at that point that I wanted to be a teacher, simply because hand in hand with all of that exploring education and going to university, again, without my parents knowing, I exploded into a dance career as a Latin American and ballroom dancer. So I left my job as a trilingual secretary. I started to study at U of T part-time, and I began dancing as a career, both teaching and competing. Once I got a taste of teaching, I thought I might be able to do this. And so, by chance, I applied at York University, and I got rejected because my grades weren't high enough, because I hadn't had enough educational experience, because actually, if I can quote the gentleman that interviewed me, he said to me, "We don't need any more Italian white women in the field." And again, being raised the way I was raised, I said, okay. I didn't take it anywhere. I didn't appeal it. I just said, okay. And I walked away. Somewhere inside, I thought, I can't keep doing this. I'm not going to take this. This is not going to work for me. And so I applied again the following year. And by the grace of God, I got in, and here I am. Still in school. I went to York University for my degree in education and my Bachelor of Arts. I am now back at U of T doing my master's in theology, my master's in theological studies. And my dance career lasted about 15 years and has served me well in education. And I'm coming into my retirement now, about 6 years left. And once that is celebrated, which I plan to celebrate, I will be moving into counseling and opening up potentially a practice as a psycho-spiritual therapist. Psycho-spiritual therapist because I can't be a counselor without having the presence of God in my life. You ask me why I'm here, and I've definitely walked with the hand of God, really against my ethnicity, against my upbringing, against my academic, lack of nurturing, against a marriage that I did have, but was not supported in this way either, just against so many odds. And here I still am, still moving forward, still learning, still exploring, and really loving this finding out who I am, because who I thought I was so many years ago is very different from who I am now.
Well, thank you for sharing, Cathie. I mean, personally, I've picked up a few lessons just from your story. And one of them is that, coming from a parent's perspective, it's important to help our children follow what they enjoy doing, because you kept working on this journey, figuring out what you enjoyed doing. And also to not allow others to set your limits for you, because you didn't allow what you thought you could accomplish, what level you were at in elementary school, to stop you from continuing your journey of learning and working towards what you really wanted to do in your life. And you're going to continue working in that direction even after you retire. I think that's great. So it's never too late to learn. And really, with God, all is possible.
Oh, Mom, absolutely.
I had the opportunity to spend some time in your classroom when I was teaching ESL. And I'm really excited to hear your points of view on some of the strategies you use with your students and even with your own kids at home. You've been blessed with 2 kids, a daughter and a son, and I've heard of some great successes they've had in their life. I hope that parents out there that are listening can pick up something from your story to take on in their own life, some strategies. What are some of your philosophies, you were sharing with me 2 things that you really wanted to point out that is important to know when working with kids?
Working with children, really, I believe that I was born and raised to do. I didn't know that when I first started out. I started out in the education system where I struggled a great deal, and I was born to a migrant European family, Southern Italy, whose really main focus was to, be married and raise children. So the academics was not a part of my, it was not a part of my upbringing. It wasn't an expectation. It wasn't a dream for me. And yet, here I am, a teacher of 25 years, absolutely loving this vocation that I've been called to do. Really, the heart of my teaching is simply loving these children unconditionally. Of course, with my own children, this unconditional love that no matter what they do, their actions, their choices may not be the best interest for them, but who they are as human beings, as created people. They have my love unconditionally. They have my respect. I come from a very authoritarian background academically and also family-wise. I was raised on the do what I say, not what I do attitude. But that's not the case for me. I've established a classroom where mutual respect, where respect is not earned, but it is a right. These children have a right to be respected as young people, as growing people, as curious people. They have a right to be respected just because they exist.
I remember one time, and I was present in the class, and there was some cyberbullying going on. Mm-hmm. What made it memorable was that you talked to the class, and you also told them how they should continue to treat the actual person who was considered the bully. Mm-hmm. So that you didn't look just at the one that was being bullied, which was very important and very important to take a stand on, but you also looked at how the bully was feeling and how we should not, make him feel very uncomfortable right now.
It's very true, because it all factors into respect. It doesn't matter whether you are the bully or whether you are being bullied. The point is that there are hurt feelings there, and we express our hurt feelings in different ways. Some of us shut down and withdraw, and some of us move outward and are outward in an aggressive way. And but at the end of the day, the bully and the bullied are being hurt. And when we can see a human being for the respect that they deserve, then we can ask the question. And when we love unconditionally the human being for the love that they deserve, then we can see past the behaviors. We can see past the actions and the choices. And this respect and this love that I speak of is not only mine for them, but it is them for themselves. There must be this sense, this idea, this immovable feeling of self-love and self-respect. And if we don't let our children know that there's an importance in them loving themselves and them respecting themselves, and then them feeling our respect, then we don't have a stable ground on which to raise them or to educate them. How do I make that possible? How do I make that happen? It is really in living my own authenticity, in being authentic and in being transparent as a human being, as a person. I remember, Josie, you may have been at that graduation. I had a young boy who had struggled through the academic system at our school. He had struggled behaviorally, and I had him for 2 years in grade 7 and in grade 8, and he became my valedictorian.
Wonderful.
He became my valedictorian, and his marks just skyrocketed over the 2 years that we were together. His behavior, he came into himself and found himself. He was such a joyful boy, such a committed boy, such a compassionate boy, and he became my valedictorian. And he set me into tears at his speech because he said to me, Miss Aguanno does not just talk. Miss Aguanno is what she says. Mm-hmm. And it was so humbling for me as a teacher to have this young 13-year-old boy see me and to see the truth of who I am and who over the years I have committed to be. And that comes from my commitment to being authentic and from my commitment to be transparent. But that's come over a lifetime of my own learning, my own reflection, and my own contemplation of who I am and where I want to be. And in the same way, I teach my students, and I've raised my children.
I remember there was a time I was walking through the hall and I saw that you had stopped off in a classroom, another classroom that wasn't yours, and you had talked to a child who I knew was having difficulty with our system. He was kind of always seeming to rebel, and that was a student you didn't have yet, but you were probably going to get him the next year. And you were already working on that relationship before you got him to make him feel important. And I remember you saying something like, I brought you a tea because I bring teas to my student, or I offer them teas when they're not feeling well, and you weren't feeling well. And I remember seeing him the year after in your class and seeing that he didn't rebel like he used to rebel, that he had respect for you and he wanted to please you because he knew you cared for him.
We are all in relationships. Having respect for yourself and having respect for someone else, loving yourself and loving someone else, and being authentic. These are all the most important factors of being in relationship. And quite essentially, this is who we are as human beings. We are in relationship with each other. And if we can nurture the relationships, regardless of what title they have, if we can nurture the relationships, then we have success. And this young boy, he was always in a bunch of trouble. And so if I was on yard duty, or if I was on lunch duty, or if I saw him, meandering in the hallways when I was on the way to the photocopy room, I would always stop and say, how are you? Why are you here? What's going on? How can I help? Why wouldn't I? I'm not a teacher just to my students.
I like the way you said, how can I help? Yeah. Because that actually is saying, I care about you. Is there something I can do for you? Because, a lot of the times it's like, hey, I'm the teacher.
Right.
You need to be listening.
Right.
But you took a different approach, which worked.
It does. He's now in grade 12. Never not wears his uniform.
Well, he didn't do that much here either.
Never wore his uniform, but he's always got his uniform now. And he's in academics, and he's averaging about an 85%.
Wonderful. So happy for him. He's
just doing wonderfully. But again, we have to see through just the way I present myself, as authentic as I can, and I allow myself to be transparent with my students. I look at the child beyond the fact that they are a student in my class, and I nurture those relationships. I come to them with that mutual respect, with that, like I said, unconditional love. They not only hear it from me, but they feel it and they see it. A very quick story, just as we close, my children and my students will say to me, I'll say to them, I'm angry, and they'll say, but Miss Aguanno, you don't look angry. And I'll say, I am, explain it, and move on. And then I will begin joking and laughing with them, and they're so confused because they say, but Miss Aguanno, you said you were angry. And I'll say, yes, I am, but what does that mean, and what does that matter? I still love you. And so we continue the day, and it's so confusing to them because they cannot separate the behavior to the value on who they are. We need to value our children and let them know how valuable they are in our eyes and in the eyes of the God that created them.
It seems that there's definitely two messages we can take away from this, and I'm sure many more. We should always show mutual respect, no matter the age, no matter color, race, creed. It doesn't matter. We should always show mutual respect, and that we need to be authentic. Authentic
Absolutely.
To ourselves and to others.
Absolutely. We have no reason to be anybody else but who we are, because that's who we were made.
And just keep loving people.
And ourselves.
And ourselves. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Josie.